Hello, 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 everyone. This is Felicia Carter, the coach of Making Life Happen. Today is National Divorce Day, and I have a couple of my sister friends on here with me, and we're going to be talking about divorce, now what? All of us have been through some type of relationship in one way or another. We've all been married, all had, divorces, and some divorces were, even killed, where it's like, hey, I'm good, I'm done with it, and then some of them, pretty much probably got ugly. And I can speak for myself. I've been divorced twice. So we'll get into all of that. We have a couple of questions that we're going to be going over, and we're going to be talking about different things. And hopefully this will resonate with you in one way, shape, or form to let you know that it's okay after your divorce, because in one way or another, you will make it. Things will be a little bit different, but you just got to find your new normal. So with that being said, I have Michelle here with me. I have Miss Brenda, Sister Paula, and Miss Vivian here with me. And we may have a couple of more to jump in, at a later time, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. So the first question that we're really going to talk about is, what were your first thoughts when you found out, hey, this is really happening? I'm getting divorced. What were your emotions all about? Does anyone want to answer that question and say your name and then, answer the question?
I will start.
I'll chime in.
So go, Miss Michelle.
Okay. So mine started when I was 27, 28, found out I was actually pregnant with my youngest child, and he was seeing another woman. So I decided to leave because he said if I was going to stay there, I have to put up with him and this other woman, and I was not going to do that. So it did cause a lot of anxiety and health issues while I was pregnant with the baby. So I just felt that, in my own interest of my health, it was best for me to leave. So I did come back to San Diego with my parents, moved in with my parents, 2 babies, 2 young kids, and 1 on the way. So it was a little, hard getting back into, I had to start all over, start my life anew again. It was just kind of frustrating for me at the beginning.
Okay. And then Vivian, you had something?
Yes, Vivian. My first thought was, when you reach the point that you're going through a divorce, you're both at a place where this is probably what's best for the relationship. But for me, my first thought when this is my reality, I struggle with the identity of, not being able to be referred to as, Vivian Johnson. Just the thought behind, going back to or changing that identity, not being a wife. I just felt I struggled with the reality of that, just having to look at myself and people looking at me differently. But for whatever the reason, that was the first thing that really hit me, and I had a major issue and struggle with.
Thank you. Miss Brenda?
Everyone knew but me. So that's how that one was. I mean, I had an idea sooner or later we would. I had no intentions for it. I'd always said, we're going to go the full 9 yards with it. But things happen and change. So I was kind of like the last person on it. But also for everyone, if you don't mind, before we get off the live, how long were you married before your divorce? I think I was 20 plus years, and that's including dating and engagement. And it might have been more, I think.
Sister Paula?
So I've also been married twice and divorced 2 times. I'm gonna go on my second divorce. I it was an unhealthy marriage. So as far as my emotions, how I felt about everything, it was the best thing that I had to do for myself and my children, because during that time, I was also grieving the loss of my son. So not only am I going through all the issues in the marriage, I was also grieving, and the two together, there was the lack of support. So for me, I had to do what was best for my mental state. And I'm still trying to heal from that today. We've been divorced. We were divorced about 2000, 2013, 2014. And so I'm still trying to go back to myself, the root of why I have continued in the relationships that I've had like bad luck in my relationships. So I had to check myself, go to the root of things. What is it about me that continues to have these types of relationships? So that's where I'm at right now. You know, that's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you. The next question that we're going to go to, how did you deal with everything? Because I know all of us had kids when we were in these relationships and we were going through the divorce. And as for me, it became a little bit difficult because you have your kids, and my ex-husband moved to a whole nother state, and just having to share custody, was a little difficult because, your child wants, daddy, when are you coming, or how am I going to see you, or, when am I going to talk to you again? And when you have to, play the role of, mommy, it's going to be okay. Your dad's going to, he'll contact you when he contacts you, and you're the one that has to deal with tears and all the other stuff because of the separation. When it happens, to me, that was a difficult moment, not so much for myself, but to see my child go through that and see how they carried that on, and not being able to, deal with, daddy's not here anymore. And then, when they would say certain things, or, he would say certain things and they didn't, happen, then, you're the one that's trying to cover it up so you can keep the peace between, the father and the child. And to me, it got like a little bit overwhelming. And then finally, it's like, as the child got older, it's like, hey, I'm gonna take a step back and I'm gonna let you, make decisions for yourself. It's like, I can't keep covering for the lack of what he's not doing. So, it got a little bit difficult, but, we eventually came to a common ground where my child understood, hey, this is not on you. And I was like, mommy didn't want to say anything derogatory about, your father. As you grow, you will see, what's going on for yourself. Who would like to answer that question next?
I'll go. We'll just stay in the order, I guess. So the hardest part with the emotions, I felt like, oh, he's just sowing his oats and he'll want to come back to our family. So I kept that hope that it would, reconcile itself. But moving, having to come back to live with my parents with, the little kids, and starting over, giving up myself, my, independence, and having to rely on others to be there for me. It was just kind of embarrassing for me at first. And but then, we always find that strength deep down inside of us that it's going to be okay. And, just relying on God to help me get through it and being strong for the kids. So I just realized I had to just keep going, do what's best for me and them. And in spite of, what my family was thinking of me, I had to not let that deter me and just keep moving forward. Yes, did I want it to work out? Yes, I did. But, it wasn't going that way. So I had to eventually give up that hope and dream that, oh, this is going to work itself out and we'll be a happy family again. So I had to, let go of that fantasy and just accept the realization that it's just you and the kids now, and you need to move forward.
Thank you. Ms. Vivian?
Okay. So for me, I think I struggle with, or let's see, the question was, how do you get through this emotionally? I struggle with the control. My thing was, I don't want anybody around my kids. Like, I could not get past someone else stepped into my shoes, and we struggled. We struggled with finding the best way to co-parent, and I did not know how to do that. And unfortunately, we stayed in that space for too long. And we finally got together with maturity, and over time, it started getting better, but it was very difficult for us to find the best way to co-parent. And once we were able to mature a little bit more and take our feelings out of it, we found a good way. We just started, saying we're just going to, truly focus on the kids. But for me, I went back to church and I started really, just doving into the word and having a close relationship with the Lord. And I was able at that point to call him and say, I forgive you and please forgive me. And because I was able to, have that conversation, initiate it and have that conversation and truly mean it, it really puts us on a different path. But it took a while to get there. And it was only because I decided to go back and really, have a closer and deeper relationship with the Lord for me to see my, what I was dealing with and put that aside and just look at the kids and get past that. But it was difficult. So mine was control and find the best way to co-parent. And luckily, I will say in the end, and you guys, everyone here on this call probably knows my journey with my ex a little bit more deeper, where we had this issue. And luckily, because he had a terminal illness, we were able to come back and re-engage, just our immediate family and through his passing, just to, we've did the full 360, as I can say, in my journey with this divorce. And I will tell you, just having that unconditional love and having that deeper relationship with the Lord, where you can really see how we were able to get through our situation. So hopefully that wasn't too much.
Oh, no, you're fine. Thank you. Ms. Brenda?
For me, the emotions were all over the place. I had never really been on my own. I left my parents and I got married. So to figure that part out. And then plus, at somewhere along the line, I lost me. Mm-hmm. And then trying to figure out, to a point, we tried to make a transition easy for our son. But years down the line, that was the worst thing that took place, because he felt that it was all his fault. He's like, we went to sleep, family, we woke up, we're not a family. So, that part, the emotions were just everywhere, scattered, not knowing when, where, how, what to do, how to do it. You name it, the emotions probably played a part in it. But, it took time. It took a lot of time. A lot of time.
Thank you. Ms. Paula?
So for me, even though I was very bitter with him, I still put that aside, all my feelings aside, and tried to do, like Vivian had mentioned about doing the best to co-parent. And in the beginning, it was a struggle, because I really made that. I was the one making a lot of the effort to try to, because I lived in another town, I would make the effort, but he would have made the effort as well. But because he didn't have a working vehicle at that time, I would always go back and forth, like every weekend, so that she could see her dad. And eventually we got to a place eventually I got to a place where God worked in my heart to free me from that bitter place. Because even though I felt the way that I felt, I was always still opening my home for holidays, for whatever it was, so that he can be there around his daughter. And so eventually I healed from that bitter place. And right after that healing came, we found out that he had a terminal illness as well, and had passed away in 2019. And so there was healing right before his passing. There was a lot of healing, and I thank God for that. And that's all I can say as far as that. I just really thank God for the healing that he did in that whole situation.
Amen. Thanks, guys. This is really good. You guys are giving a lot of information, and it's so awesome how we're coming from all different walks of life. And just know that your story is going to help bless somebody else. We're going to go ahead and go to the next question. How did we make it financially? Because it's like, we go from 2 incomes to just being in 1 income family now. Then it's like, yes, you may get the child support. Yes, you may get the spousal support, whatever other, some of us did, some of us didn't, and yes, it helps out. But, then for those of us that may have, boys, they can eat, and it's like, you don't go to McDonald's or whatever and just order 1 Happy Meal. Now they're at this point where, it's like, hey, give me the, supersize everything. You know what I mean? So it's like, you make a way to make things happen. And as for me, when I tell you, it was nothing but God's grace and mercy that we made it. And it was at a point in time where we had 13 kids in the house because everybody wanted to come to Mama Fee's house for, whatever. So never did I tell, any child, no, never did I tell them that, we didn't have. We always had, and we always made a way, and everybody always had their snacks. So at times did it get difficult, but God made a way. And, yes, their dads did step up. Yes, they did, help out, financially. And, I'm grateful for that because, when it got to, them playing sports and stuff, it was like, I would call them up. Okay, look, see, they playing, football or baseball or whatever. I said, look, these shoes cost a grip. So if you buy one shoe, one shoe, I'll buy the other. But, they're going to need that pair of shoes, so it was like we would have to go half on whatever, activity, because it's not like they would only play, football, one of them played all 3 sports. So I'm like, it got expensive, but you know what? We made it through. We made sure they have food on the table, clothes on their back, shoes on their feet. Every sport was paid for, and then, us as women, sometimes when, things don't happen the way that we want to, we pick up a second job. We get a side hustle. We do what we got to do in order to make our family financially stable. Because there's times, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it would get embarrassing. Like, okay, yeah, no, I can't do that. Or, no, we don't have that. It's like, no, they never really got to see the real struggle, because as a woman, as a mother, and, just, I guess, being prideful, ended up making what needed to be taken care of happen for the family. So we'll start with you, Michelle.
Yeah, it was difficult. I've always been a working woman, and when I became a wife and mother, that didn't stop. It was intermittently, but I always wanted to work. So, but when the divorce or the separation was happening and I had to move in with my parents, I had to rely on them again until, me and my ex-husband were able to come to an agreement as far as the financial support. And as Sister Felicia mentioned, with boys and, girls too, they like to get involved in sports as they're growing up. And I had 2 boys and they were doing basketball, and, you got to do the registration fees and, pay for the uniforms and all that. And, that stuff does add up. So yeah, you do have to, humble yourself, let go of your pride, and back to the father and say, hey, we got to work together on this in the best interest of the kids. So we were able to, one, come to an agreement on that. Financially, I did have a job, and I was able to eventually move out of my parents' house, have a place for me and my kids to live. But, some things I wasn't able to take care of all by myself. So I did call on him and say, hey, can you help me out with the electric bill? And I remember one night, and this is what kind of made me, realize this is not going to reconcile itself. You got to learn how to put your big girl panties on and figure these things out. And I called him and asked him to help me with the electricity bill. Came home one day after work, after Bible study, actually. I went to a Bible study and had the kids with me, and it was raining, and we got in the house and the lights didn't come on. I didn't let the kids know what was going on. I knew what was going on. It was like 2 days before I could get paid and was going to pay the bill. And, things were just, they weren't on. So I packed the kids back up. We went out and went to a payphone. I called him and said, hey, can you, wire me some money to pay the electric bill? And he straight out said no. And we were out in the rain, and I said, okay, God, only you can get me through this right now. And I called the electric company, and and they said, ma'am, don't worry about it. Get your kids home, get out the rain. Your lights will be on when you get home. And just, going forward, if you get in a situation like this again, just call us, and, we'll make sure they don't get turned off. So you just gotta, rely on God to help you get through these, well, I had to rely on God to help me get through those financial difficulties. And then once I did, he would always provide, make a way. Like Felicia said, we pick up a second job, get a side hustle, do whatever we can to provide for our family. And that's what I had to do. It was, you have to get to a humbling experience to, do that and not be so prideful and say, well, I'm not going to put myself out there. He better pay for these kids. He helped me make these kids. No, you got to, if he's not going to, you can't force him. You got to figure it out and just rely on God to do it. And, thankfully he did. And I was able to make it through a lot of those hard times when it, as it came to my finances.
Thank you. Miss Vivian.
Okay. So for me, pride is, that's a terrible thing to have. So for me, I could not ever ask my ex for money. I refused to because I was too prideful. So for me, I had a second job, and I dealt with the same thing with lights being turned off and juggling here, one bill to pay the next, and went through all of that. Lost my home, but for me, I just, it was that pride. And until we could, the Lord was able to soften my heart and soften his heart for us to see and do the right thing behind making sure I had adequate enough money to take care of the kids and bills, and moving, things like that. That's where things start to change for me. But as far as, just how do we get through it, it was with time, but it was definitely with a lot of loss, home, repossession of car, like just all of those good things I've definitely gone through. But again, once, God has softened our hearts to both, put us in a position where we can, make better decisions for our family. I have the support, and he, at that point was able to truly help our family, and give back to the boys, not necessarily me individually, but making sure our boys had. And he was able to do more than what he was doing because he refused to do the same thing. We were just, our hearts were hardened. So we wouldn't, both of us are both Leos, unfortunately. So we refused to give the other the benefit of anything. So that was our journey. And I will say, again, towards the end, what he was able to truly give back, just, as a family, he was able to redeem that. Both of us, I would say, we did that, but it was rough.
Amen. Miss Brenda.
It was hard, but I kind of had already knew how to do my bills. I kind of lost that task being married because I just gave everything up. And I was like, whatever. But it was difficult. I didn't have anything turned off, but the process of for your child to be in two homes, to have two things, you know, a set of clothes at each home, to make sure that it tried to go as smoothly as it could. And I asked, I go to the school, I'm like, look, this was going on. I'm unable to take care of that bill. And I listen. I tell people I listen to other parents, and these parents were like in the $100,000-$200,000, you know, income range. I was nowhere near that. And they were getting stuff paid for the school. So I was like, okay, can you assist me with this? I need this and he needs that. And, you know, with that, as far as equipment and stuff for sports, I did get a lot of it. His dad got some, but then we also learned he played baseball, basketball, and football. His heart was in baseball, but all this equipment, you know, you have bats that's $400 plus, you know, cleats. And it was just, after a while, it's like, you know what, Lord, it'll get done. But if nothing else, I made sure that there was food. You know, if I had to go past by my parents or friends fixed a meal, there was always some food. But it was difficult, very, very, very difficult. I just tried to make the transition smooth, but it ended up not being smooth. But, you know, now he's learning a lot about it, but, you know, some things he just don't need to know. He'll probably, you know, I always said, I am not going to put anyone down under the bus or any of that.
Mhm.
But it's like, as you get older, you will learn both sides of the family. You will
Mhm.
make your own decisions. That's not going to be me talking about, no matter how mad or frustrated, you know, we as women get, I'm just not going to, because it's like, you might hate me for the words that I say, you
Mhm.
know, and I didn't want that. So
Mhm.
I didn't sugarcoat things, but I just didn't talk bad about them. It's like, well, daddy didn't, I'll call you daddy and see why. You know,
Mhm.
but I wasn't going to take the brunt of it by putting him or either side of the family underneath the bus and drag them. I just wasn't.
Thank you. Miss Paula?
So during the time that we were married, I was always the one that had the stable income. He didn't. So when we divorced, he really was not working. So I didn't really expect much from him. Um, I was happy whenever he did a little hustle here and then and helped my daughter by doing whatever he can. Um, he would do things at the church, clean up, barbecues for the church, things like that. Then whenever he became ill, he made sure to apply for SSI. And not only was he able to get the permanent disability, he was able to get it for my daughter. So during that time, she was getting that help, which helped me like big time.
Mhm.
And in his passing, now I have the death benefits, which has been an enormous help for me because it's quite a bit for her. So that's just been my journey. You know, he only was able to do whatever he was able to do, and I never expected too much because that was just going to disappoint me. So I just was thankful when he was able to. And for the most, he did the best that he could. That's all I can say. He did do the best that he could.
That's awesome. Thank you. You know, it's like us as women, we find a way to make things happen. And, you know, no matter if we had the lights cut off, no matter if we had to put candles in, it's like we always look at different situations that we've gone through. But, you know, being in the position that I'm in right now, you know, women come to me and they're like, I don't have any food. My kids don't have any clothes. And, there's been some that have been left on the street. So, you do your best to try to help those because, we may have gone through our situations financially, but we got to always remember that whatever we went through, there's always somebody else that has it a little bit more rougher than we do. And, I feel as women that we need to go ahead and try to assist those that have been going through something because, for me, I never thought of myself as being better than anybody else. Not saying any of us on here have ever thought that, but what I'm saying is no matter what we're going through as individuals, we still have to be a blessing to those that are around us because we never know. Just because we have it at this moment, God can take it just like that. And we can probably be back in that same situation that someone else is in. And, we never know what a person is going through when it comes to, going through a divorce. And like I tell people, just because you're going through this situation now, doesn't mean that you're going to have to live in that situation forever. It does get better, but it just takes a little bit of time in order for it to get better. Take baby steps. Don't try and hurdle into something different. Take the time and get to know who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, how are you going to help anybody else? Our next question that we're going to be going into, how do you get up? How do you get back on track? As for me, the first marriage, it was a little bit difficult because I was younger. And going through that whole situation back then, yes, I was in church, but the church wasn't in me. And, trying to find the answer to, whatever I was going through when the kids weren't around, I was trying to find it at the bottom of a bottle. It was like, we would always make a joke. Oh, did you find Jesus at the bottom of that bottle? And I'm like, eventually I had to, come to an understanding that no matter how much I've drank or how much, I tried to throw it out of my mind, the situation was still at hand. I still had to get up and take care of my kids. I still had to get up and I had to go to work. I still had to do all these things and make life happen for, for them. So I had to put the bottle down, drink, every now and again back then was okay. And I had to understand that's not going to answer all of my questions. That's not going to make me who I am. And with the second divorce, that was, it was kind of painful, but then it's like, I didn't have time to even work through it because that year was like, I would say the roughest year of my life living because, I left that relationship. We ended up getting divorced. My son passed away, had to go through bankruptcy. And then my mom passed away. So all that happened in 1 year. And it's like, to me, that was like the 5 things that would just like wipe anybody out. But the only difference going through that divorce, I knew who Jesus was. And I had him in me. So I wasn't of the church. Now I am the church. And that made a total difference when it came to handling things because I wasn't looking to drink my sorrows away. I wasn't looking to like just go throw myself out and just cry and do whatever. Don't get me wrong. There are times that I cried because I was hurting because I had so many different things going on. But at the end of the day, me and God had to have a conversation because when he took my child, I went through a whole nother, way of thinking. And I had to get out of that. I wouldn't call it a pity party, but I had to get out that way of thinking and get back on track because he may have taken one of my children, but I still had 2 more. And at this time I had 3 grandchildren. So it's like, get yourself together because eventually, not only do you need to know who you are, you want your babies to know who you are as well.
Mhm.
and the strength that God gave me to make it through. And like I tell people, keep a word that's going to help you to get through. Keep a
Mhm.
Bible verse that's going to help you to get through. Keep a song in your heart that's going to help you to get through. Because as we are all coming up, as we're all doing things, as long as we have that word, as long as we have that, that way to handle things, God will help us to do all things. And, that's how I continue to get myself back on track. Michelle?
It took some time. I went through a lot of, I felt after I had my youngest child and I was with my parents, this was before I moved out. I felt like, you know what, I need to take some time for me. And I
Mhm.
made bad decisions as far as taking that time for me, hanging out with friends, as Felicia mentioned, drinking all weekend and just doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing. I should have been at home with, being a mom to my kids, but I was being a little selfish and still heartbroken. I was like, you know what, I got to get out there and immediately, search for someone else and, just making all those bad decisions. And I did have, a come to Jesus moment. And he came to me one night and says, I can't use you if you keep doing the things you're doing. And so I clearly, I woke up the next day and, my sister was going to church and I said, hey, how come you don't ask us to go to church with you? And she said, well, I didn't know you guys wanted to come. And so I said, well, next Sunday we're all going. And so I immediately called my friend that I was hanging out with, and it was just God all up in it. And I didn't even have to tell her. My intentions was calling her to let her know that I was not going to be hanging out with her anymore. I didn't even have to say it. I just said, hey, girl. She said, I already know. She said, I understand. And she said, pray for me so I can get to that place where you are. And to this day, 30 years later, we're still, great friends. But from that day, I just had to, and I've always believed in God and knew he was there in my life. But, sometimes you just take them out, put them on the shelf and get back to them when you want them or feel like you need them. And so from that day forward, when we started going to church, I got involved in the church. Got the kids, involved. I became a Sunday school teacher. And just by doing that, it kind of gave me more level ground and took my focus off of not having my husband there with me, with my kids, and gave me more focus on what I could do for my kids and my purpose, that God had gave me, and to be a better example for them, especially with having a daughter. You don't want, your little girls watching you grow, depending on men to do everything for you. You want to show them that, yes, it's great to have that helpmate there, but we got to wait for God to send us that helpmate. And that was, I think my thing. I didn't wait on God to send me that helpmate. And so, after I got back into church, everything was just, I had some valleys, but, I learned to deal with those valleys better by having God there with me and not just wallowing and pitying, having that self-pity and woe is me party. So I was able to depend on God to get me through, and I always made it through. And, my friends and families like, how are you staying so strong? And I, like Felicia, my house was like the house for all the kids to come to. They, and if they came, they was joining the children's choir. So I had a full children's choir. We would practice in the house, and I was bringing kids to church. I was a Sunday school teacher, so all the parents, oh, please, pick my kids up, and I said, well, y'all can come too. But it was just, God gave me a new excitement and a new vision for myself. And I began to just be patient and just, as long as I can remember as a little girl, I've always wanted to be a mother and a wife, but it had to be in God's time. And I had to come to the realization of, I have my kids, so I'm always going to be their mother, but that wife part, I have to wait on God to make that happen. And it has to be according to his will and his purpose, and something that he has pictured for me. So, you know, my kids are all grown now. They're in their, you know, I have one in his late 20s and the older two are 30 and in their 30s. And you know, I could sit back and say, you know, by the grace of God, I made it through. Me and their dad you know, we had our hard times. I mean, we had some hard times as far as the co-parenting and the financial support and all that. But we got to a point where, hey, we messed up, and we got to a point where we were able to forgive each other and look at what we needed to do for our kids and grow up and mature and be responsible for them. And we did that, and we became, you know, we're still good friends. We communicate with each other. We're just texting the other day because our daughter's boyfriend wants to propose to her. So he called us both and asked, you know, our permission, our blessing. So we were discussing that. So we're good friends. And when he comes to town, he visits my parents because they still love him as their son-in-law. He's a father of, you know, my kids. And we came to a point where, you know, we set everything aside and we're able to, you know, get through it. And I can't take the credit of doing it by myself without God being there to hold my hand and support me and help me get through it. You know, my kids, as they start getting older, you know, as Brenda mentioned, you don't want to badmouth their dad. And I wanted to so many times, but I didn't, you know, you just let them grow up and figure it out and see for themselves. And they did, and then we would talk about it. And but you know, just looking back on it, I couldn't have done it without God being there. And as my kids started to see all the things that I sacrificed to make life happen for them, I have these notes everywhere, and they just still encourage me. You know, my kids, thank you, Mom, for being such a strong mother for us, and you know, helping us get through everything, just being there for us. So, you know, it was all God. It was all God.
Amen. Well, we lost Miss Vivian. Her call dropped, so hopefully she'll come back in. So we'll go ahead and go with Miss Brenda.
Let me see. What was I got so involved in everything.
How did you get up and get your life back on track?
Woo, that took a long time because there was a lot of hatred. A lot of it. And it took time. And we're cordial now. And God intervened with that part because of our son. And, you know, we try to do things for our kids that we think is the best. And now, as I look through things and things that he go through as a young man, parents have to realize kids know way before we know. And that didn't happen with us. But I say that because for the women, maybe the men who come back and listen to this replay, understand that trying to make it work, if there isn't a common ground, if God isn't in it, or whoever your person, your higher being that you pray to needs to be in your life, because the hatred I had blocked a lot of blessings, a lot of blessings. And it took time, it took years, it took many years to really be able to look and not have hatred. And, you know, we contact like, okay, you talked to him lately? You talked to him? Well, what, you know, do we need to do some intervention? We still have that. And a lot of people ask, because they knew my hatred. Well, you said and did. Yes, I did. But in order for me to move on and get blessed with whatever, I had to come back and we had to get on common ground with our son to do things. For me, I know it was a lot. It was a lot. And I also learned out of hatred and anger. I know I said what I said, but people take a lot of things out of context.
Mhm.
And it comes back. It can be thousands of years later. Girl, you remember? So for people who are going through a divorce, in a divorce, or coming out of divorce, before you speak, think, or do whatever, give it an opportunity to let God let you speak who needs to know your situation.
Mhm.
And that's throughout the whole thing, because your friends, your family,
Mm.
I'm not even have to say no more, because whoever listening and whoever needed that, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
But it took time, and we're cordial. And I tell people we have a son. At one point, we loved each other in order to have that son, But there are some people who will never, probably ever, be cordial. And you still have, mom, you got dad, and you got the kids in the middle. And like you, Miss Michelle, y'all are at a point where you have a marriage taking place where some people are like, are you inviting your daddy? Are you inviting your mama? Well, I ain't going. That's a lot there that people need to think about, because I flipped the script, because I was like, you're not gonna see him, I was in my stuff, and it hit me. Well, what if he make it to where I can't see my son?
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, so heck no, we no. So it's a process. It is a serious process. It's nothing to take lightly until you know you from the inside out
Mhm.
in your higher being.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Because from there, you're going to get a lot of answers. And the movie, he'll put the movie in front of you. Movie's been in front of you, you just ignored it.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
it's a serious process.
Mhm.
Mhm. Thank you. Miss Paula.
So for me, I'm going to say that I've never lost my praise. That's the way I feel. I've never lost my praise after, and I just continue to try to ask God for His will to be done in my life. I have the challenges as a single mom, but God always provides, and I ask Him for direction. I've attempted a relationship after that divorce, and God said no, and I had to be obedient to that, because there was a lot of healing inside of me that still needed to take place. So at this time, I'm just like taking it one day at a time, asking God for His will to be done, to teach me to still be the mother that I need to be for my children, and to let me have peace whenever that time comes for me to have a relationship, because that's really important to me, for my children to see this. It's if you knew my history, I have not had very good luck in relationships. So it's just like I just ask that God give me that peace and reveal it to me, and I just do my part, continue to serve Him, do what I'm supposed to do for the kingdom, and that's it.
Mhm.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I'm going to piggyback on what Miss Brenda was talking about, how you have your friends and your family, and we have all this anger and this bitterness, and we're like blah, 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 blah about, whatever situation we may be in. And, this is a public service announcement for those of you that may be going through a divorce or have been through a divorce. Just because we dislike a person at that moment, by the time we come through our situation, we may say, oh, okay, now now we cool, but then your friends still hating them, your family still hating them because of the things that you said. Sometimes you gotta be mindful of the things that come out of your mouth. And see, this came with wisdom. because there were times when, you know, I couldn't stand, you know, so and so and so and so, and you know, we went through this or we went through that, and you know, not only saying, you know, our, you know, the marriages or the divorces, but also, you know, with the dating, you know, and or it might be, you know, a friendship or whatever relationship that you may have been in that this is resonating with. Understand, whenever you're going through something, some things just don't need to be said, because when you speak the word, you can't take the word back. To me, verbal abuse, verbal sayings, verbal emotions are much more critical than somebody slapping you in your face or on the hand, because that bruise will go away. You're only going to see that bruise for a little bit of time, but those words will resonate, and those words can be trigger words to somebody. So we have to be mindful of how we say things, when we say things, and who we speak about, because we never know when a person is going through something, and that word that you say or somebody may say may trigger that person to go all the way back to 1992. Just because we are, you know, doing better, we have taken the time to, you know, work on ourselves. Everybody may not have taken that time. And it's like, if they got that trigger word back from 1992, that whole emotion and everything from then is going to come and be right there on the forefront all over again. Because some people have a hard time of letting go. And if they have that hard time of letting go, they haven't taken the time to, you know, inspire themselves from the inside out. If they haven't taken that time to make their life happen, and they haven't taken that time to find Jesus Christ or whoever their higher power may be, they still may go through that until they go to their grave. The best thing that I can inform anybody on today, dealing with a divorce, going through a divorce, heading towards a divorce, is let it go. Find who you are and stand strong to who you are. The hatred, the hurt, well, the hurt, I know it's going to be there, but do your best not to have the hatred in your heart, because the hatred is only going to hinder you from what you're going to get, the blessings. Remember, the rain and the storm is not going to last forever. You're going to get that rainbow. And there's, you know, like they say, there's that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So your blessings are going to come. But just be mindful as to how you handle the situation that you're going through. So with that being said, we're going to our last question of this segment, because we're coming up on our hour. How did you start dating again? Well, I don't even know how to answer that question, because honestly, I really haven't started dating again. It's like, you know, you have a person you talk to here and there, and, you know, that's just what it is. It's just that conversation here and there. And half the time it doesn't go anywhere. It's like, you know, you're talking to them for a couple of minutes for me, and then it's like, they're not there anymore. So, you know, at this point in time in my life, I'm like, is dating actually for me? Do I really want to date again? Right now, it's like, the answer is no. Unless God has a different plan. And, you know, we just came off of a 9-day fast. And so that was, you know, one of the things on my, that I wrote down. And out of everything, out of all my 9 things, I think for me, the husband part took up a whole page, because I was like, okay, I'm gonna write this down and I'm gonna make it real plain, because, you know, it's like you start thinking about things about what you want in your mate or how you want your mate, or, you know, it's like, but God, I want him to be able to serve you, so therefore he can be better for me. Because if he's not serving you, he's not going to be able to do anything for me. And that's the place that I've gotten to in my life when it comes to this dating thing. It's like, you know, I want to get out there, but, you know, it's like I listen to all these, you know, different self-help books and, you know, stuff like that. And it's like, it's telling you, you got to get out the house. You got to get out there in order, you know, to start dating. You can't date nobody inside your house. And I don't really do the online thing because the area I live in, all those that are online, I'm sure they have been, you know, well around the corners and the blocks and everything else. So dating out here in the Imperial Valley, no. It would have to be somebody across the United States or in another city in California. So, but as for dating, eventually it'll happen. But as of right now, I'm just dating my business and dating Jesus.
Amen.
Michelle?
I think immediately was seeking for that comfort of just having a man around early on, and then I had to stop because I was seeing how it was affecting my kids, especially the boys. And so I just and then eventually my daughter. So I said, okay, let me just stop. And I gave that up for a long time. Just recently, last year, actually, I did meet a young man that we have been, he's not young, but we have been dating just for a few months now. We got to know each other for about a year. He is a Christian, and he wanted that in the next woman he, you know, became in a relationship with, and I wanted that too. And I prayed to God, you know, God, I'm just going to sit back and wait and let you send that man to me. And you know, is this the man? I don't know, but so far it, you know, everything seems to be going well. We do pray together, we study the Bible together. So that's a plus. I've never had a relationship where I could openly share my Christian journey with another man, because they weren't on that same level or same page, or just didn't believe altogether. So
That is awesome.
you know, I'm thanking God right now that I am able to do that. So we're taking things slow. Felicia, I think we could do a whole nother segment on dating after divorce, but
And you know what? We will.
but you know, I was, you know, I had to take a step back and develop me first. I had to, you know, get myself right to be ready for whoever God was going to send to me. So just staying in prayer, writing in my journal every day. I wrote down what I wanted in my man and needed in my next husband, and put it in Proverbs 31. And it's been there since 2013. I was reading it actually to Vivian the other day, and we were having this conversation. And so far, and when I was reading, I almost started crying, because, you know, so far this gentleman has everything that I was praying to God for. So, you know, we're just taking things slow, doing it totally different from what I've done in the past, and even when I met my husband. So I just, you know, just praying on it, and not, you know, getting all how women getting all giggly inside, and oh, this is my next boyfriend and this, that, and, you know, I'm just letting it go. We're just going one day at a time. And it's, you know, you just got to take your time and not jump into it. And I think that early on, that's what I was doing, and just getting into all these bad relationships. And I just had to get to a point where I said, you know what, stop. And I listened to God, and He says, you need to start doing this now. And I had to take care of me and prepare myself, and let Him, you know, work with me and in that preparation.
Awesome. Thank you. Brenda?
I laugh because
Don't start.
have I really dated after my divorce? No. The gentleman that our paths crossed at some point in our life, we knew each other from elementary to college to after their divorces, whatnot. And it was more so dinner, dancing, sporting events, things like that. And it was fun. But to say seriously, no. The one person that I did think was serious, I introduced to my son, and they clicked. he and his son clicked, and it was nice. And whatever the reason, it did not work.
Mhm.
And I kind of have an idea. My friends were like, girl, for real? Because that's a whole conversation for us offline. But
That's that dating after divorce we'll get to.
yeah, yes. But there's a book, I can't remember if it was Paula or who, the people that they attract.
Mhm.
I was invited to this singles dating thing. Oh, Jesus, help me. Faithful Central, I think it is. And the book that he had was How to Get a Date Worth Keeping.
Mm.
And the thing about it is, dating is to collect data to understand yourself and the person that you would like.
Mhm.
Also, for all the women that says, I'm waiting for God to bring that man to me. As the pastor said, and one of the people, and I can't remember if it was the guy who wrote the book, because the one who wrote the book, when it comes back up, I'll tell y'all. Oh, it's not showing. We'll get it on there. But so the man that you're waiting for, because you don't leave the house, you're not dating, you go to church, you do the same thing. You have not changed a lane to see where you are going. Is it the Amazon man delivering your package? Is it the milkman delivering your mail? Is it the person that just came up to your door and knocked? Because you have not changed the lane. You have not set yourself to understand. If you're still getting that same person as the person that possibly you may have divorced, or you notice the men that you keep attracting that just aren't aligned with you and or God, however you look at it, as it says, and I'm learning about myself, you have to go within, go deep within, and find out what's going on with you. So, and I'm just gonna throw it out there. Somebody that smokes or drinks. In the book, he says a person who comes from a family or a mama or a dad that drinks or smoke, you can see that person before anyone else.
Mhm.
But what are you holding in within you? Are you dating that man that is abusive? But you never tapped into anything that made you were abused as a young person and blocked it.
Mhm.
So for whoever that resonates with, we are not counselors, psychiatrists, and our psychologists.
Mhm.
Step and talk to someone so you can figure out what's going on.
Mhm.
Because it can be financial, it can be, it can go from one extreme to the other. But to find out you, and that goes for men also, for the person, because like everyone says here, the person that God brings to us. But if we don't do the work on ourselves, the person might be right here. Because I know, I know, and Felicia knows, we talked about this, he could be right in front of my face. But the person that I want may not be who God wants. Meaning, it can be another nationality, a whole nother ethnicity.
Mhm.
And I am focused on this.
Mhm.
And they always say, write it down, be very detailed. People like 6 feet, he got to be muscular, he got to have a job. If he retired, he better have a good pension because he needs to take me to travel. Flip the script. Because what is he looking in for us?
Right.
Everybody say, well, what you gonna bring to the table? These men nowadays got some stuff that's knock a woman out to just put you to the side.
Mhm.
But I say all that because before I can really, really find a mate, I am going to date. And I'm going to date various men. And like the book says, and I'm laughing because I got to wrap my head around this of big men, short men, tall men, white men, black men, Asian men, there's a variety out there. And that person God has for me, I have to be prepared. And I am not.
Right.
I am nowhere near prepared. Jesus, Lord, have mercy. No, I am not prepared because I've been to cut them off at the knees.
Uh-oh.
And I'm just being honest, y'all. I'm being honest. He might come at me sideways. Fine, pay my own meal. And it could have been just a simple question.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working on me real bad. Jesus.
Amen.
Well, let me say, you have come a long way since we've been working together. So, I mean, because if y'all think this is bad, baby, I couldn't have brought her on here before. I would have had to give her a pep talk, you know what I mean? No, sure. But, you know, yes, Miss Brenda, you have come a long way, baby. Yes, you
Oh,
have.
yeah. And ladies, gentlemen, surround yourself with people who can uplift you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had to come to a point in my life of women who truly prayed, not just prayed, but prayed, gave me guidance. Because I tell a person in a minute, I am not a Bible toting scripture person. I could tell you a couple of words and be like, can you help me find it? Now, mind you, my Bible got tabs on it.
Mhm.
I tell y'all the scripture, John 1, whatever. You go to a girl, honey, right? Hold up, wait a minute. I'm in the content. Okay, that's on page 500 and something, and I'm flipping. But I know there are things in there that are meant for me, so I go look for it. And it's taken some time. So for those who feel that you have to rush, it's not a rush. You know, wherever you are in the world, there's rush hour traffic.
Mhm.
And in California, people know the 405, the 105, and the 110, and even the 5. You can't go any faster than what the traffic is going. So stop rushing your life. Work on you. That's all I can say from me.
That's good. That's good, Miss Brenda. Huh? Miss Paula?
I feel a lot like you, Felicia. I mean, I think I'm okay with not dating,
Mhm.
or do I want to date? I don't know, because I don't put myself out there. I've thought about, I've had 2 of my friends, women of faith, that have said, well, why don't you get on one of the dating apps, I go, yeah, but doesn't the word say, he that findeth the good wife, or he that findeth the wife findeth the good thing? And they're like, well, he'll just find you on the dating app,
Right.
So I'm just, I might have to do something a little bit different, and something, to challenge myself to something different, because
Right.
I really don't get out, go to the gym. I work from home. So go to Walmart.
No,
But I do have to work on myself in the meantime.
I think all of us have a little bit of work to do within ourselves. But in the same token, it's like while we're working on ourselves and God is working with us to help us to get to where we need to be at, we're going to have to start doing more than, going to church. Like, Ms. Brenda was saying, we got to get out there. So if you have to do the online thing, and I know for some of us, that has worked very well. And I'm not going to, put people's business out there, but for some of us, it's been working very well. And, have found some positive, uplifting relationships that have come from online. So I'm just saying, try it out, see if it works for you. Pray over the person, before you even meet a person, you get to chat, and God will let you know, oh, that's not for me. Don't do that. You know what I mean? So don't sell yourself short. Like for me, I mean, you in Sacramento, come on now. I'm in Imperial Valley. That's something totally different. Like I said, it's gonna have to be in another state or somewhere up in another city, here, unless God brings somebody here. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that'll work. So, we just need to take the opportunity and get out there to do. I mean, we do understand the Bible says a man that findeth a wife finds a good thing. We understand that. And that is work. but it never did say that we couldn't put ourselves in a position for him to find us.
Because
So,
if we stay in a house, you don't know where we live.
well, now, you know, you can stay in a house and be online and, you know, you can do that. But, you know, with me, with dating, it's like, have the safety of it. It's like, if you meet the person online, say, you know, hey, I'm bringing a friend with me. Be safe about it, because I don't know, I'm praying, I trust God. I just have, you know, some reservations when it comes to meeting different people. So that, you know, that's all I have to say on that. So before we close, is there anything else you ladies would like to put out there, or maybe something we may have missed, or, you know, something that may be a blessing to somebody else that may be going through one of these situations? I'm going to open up for you guys to talk freely for just a few more minutes, because we are over our hour. But I want to give y'all that opportunity before I close.
So any ladies, if a Bible verse, a quote, something that resonated within you through your divorce, let that person know. You know, that thing that keep going through your mind, like, I ain't gonna say that. I'm not, whatever comes that you feel comfortable with, because somebody does. I mean, what we talked about now, I wish it would have been something around for me then. Maybe it could have worked. Maybe we could have done things differently. And maybe for all of us, we could have done something differently. Whether you filed for it or he filed for it. It's just something that whoever listens to this replay, may they be blessed with the information that we're giving them.
Amen.
So, Miss Paula, something that resonated with you while you were going through your divorce, Miss Michelle, Felicia, and Miss Vivian, when you come back, if you can just type it in the remarks so people can know, you know, how we got through it, or how we are still getting through it.
Mm-hmm.
I would say just, you know, continue to be patient. And then the important thing is, don't try to do it by yourself. You gotta, you know, first and foremost, have God there with you at, you know, go to him. If you gotta cry to him, and, you know, just go to him and say, Lord, just please help me get through this day. Surround yourself with positive people that will keep you uplifted and that will support you as you're going through this transition, because it is a transition. You were once a family and now you're not. And you got to learn how to adapt to your new situation. And, you know, as we're all here giving our stories, surround yourself with other people that may have gone through the same thing and just seek their advice. You know, hey, how did you handle this? Help me, you know, get through this situation I'm dealing with my kids and their dad. You know, don't be afraid and don't be prideful to ask for that help. And, you know, as Sister Brenda mentioned, you know, we wish there were things there for us, resources that were there. And today there's so many resources out there. I'm actually a coach for single moms with young kids. And so I have 3 of them that I coach with, and I tell them my stories all the time. And they're just so grateful for that wealth of, you know, that knowledge that I'm sharing with them as far as their little ones are concerned, and they're raising their babies by themselves. So, you know, just surround yourself with people that are going to encourage you. And again, just keep God first, and he will bring you through. You're going to hit those valleys, but he's going to pull you out and keep you going and keep you focused on his purpose that he has for you.
Amen. Thank you.
Yeah, I constantly have to feed my mind with word or with messages. I'll replay, say, today's sermon from TD Jakes tomorrow. And if it speaks to me the way that it spoke to me today, I'll probably listen to it on replay because it was good. And it was really good. I highly recommend it. And I'm having to listen to audible books while I'm working here. I'll listen to audible books that are self-help books or things that I that can help me in my past situations. I am constantly saying a word. My word was trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean on not unto your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he's going to direct our path. So I'm constantly feeding myself something, some word. But one thing I learned today on the message from TD Jakes is how when we isolate ourselves, that's a good place for us to attack ourselves, because it's just us. So we shouldn't be in that place of I know there's a time and a season for us to work on, for us to be on that time alone, but don't be stuck there. And that's where I've been at times. I just kind of, don't want to bother other people with some things that I'm dealing with. But like you said, don't be afraid to ask for help. That's where I'm at today. So, yeah.
Amen.
Where you're at today, is that saying you're afraid to ask for help?
No, I don't, I'm not in a place to be afraid to ask for help. I need to start, before it's like, I can do it all. I can do it all,
Right.
and I have the Lord, and I do, but I it's okay to reach out. It's
Right.
okay.
Yes, it is. It's okay for all of us, for anybody that's listening to this. So in closing, first of all, I have got to thank each and every one of you. This was so powerful. And, the epiphany that, like I said, hits at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I talked to, Sister Brenda, and I was like, I think I'm gonna do this. She's like, well, why not? And I was like, okay. She was like dating after divorce. So she actually has a book that she's getting ready to publish that's called
Course now what?
Yeah. Divorce now what? So that's where I got the topic for this message at. So it's from her book. So I'm putting it out there because some people want to procrastinate on certain things. So now you don't have a choice but to get it out, because hey, it's out all over everywhere that this is going to be played, right? So thank each and every one of you. It has been nothing but a blessing. I am honored to have each and every one of you before me. Your stories are powerful. Your testimonies will be hitting everywhere, and just be prepared, because I'm sure somebody's going to call on you for something to help them. And in closing, the one thing that I wanted to close with, for those of you that have divorced or going through a divorce, let me add, this question resonated with me as I was driving home from church today. Will God forgive me for my divorce? You know what? God will forgive you. Anything that you do, anything that you may go through, understand you do not have to hold that burden within you. He will forgive you, and he will take you and hold you and guide you through everything you're going through. Only thing you have to do is just ask for the forgiveness of whatever the situation may be that you're doing or have gone through, are going through, or dealing with. Don't hold on to anything that's going to hold you back. Release it, let it go, and have a clear understanding that God is not going to hold it against you. He's a forgiving God.
Amen.
And if your higher power is not God, then you do what's best, that's best for you, to get an understanding that things are going to be okay. Things are going to be okay. Understand that. And the other thing, for those of you that are going through a divorce or that are having relationship issues, please understand, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I am a minister and a relationship life coach, manifestation. There's a whole different titles that I may have. But understand, you can reach out to me. You can go to my website. My website is www.FeliciaCarterMakingLifeHappen.com. Go there and book your appointment. We can work out whatever it is that you're going through, but you have to be ready and you have to seek the help. No one can do it for you. Don't sit there and go through self-pity and wallow in your own understanding, because sometimes we just need that little bit of push to help us to get to the next level. So with that being said, again, I thank you for everyone that has, been here today. And I want all of you to live your blessed life and make your best life happen. This is your coach, Felicia Carter. We will see you guys again soon.